Well, hello, I'm Jerry McKee, and you're listening to Prime Time right here Monday at 7 o'clock. We got a great guest with us tonight, which will be Monty Lane Allen. And you'll get a chance if you'd like to call in and ask him a question too. You can do that also. So we'll be back right after just a couple 30 seconds introduction to Southern Fusion Barbecue, and you can look at some of the sauces. A little animation I did there. I'll be back in just one moment.
Hank Parker's Southern Fusion Barbecue Sauce. Southern Fusion is the perfect blend of sweet, spicy, and tangy flavors that capture all of the sauces of the South into a unique barbecue experience. It's thick enough to stick and thin enough to use when grilling. Our gold sauce combines our unique fusion of sweet, spicy tanginess with the addition of mustard that brings a new take on South Carolina mustard BBQ sauce.
All right, we're live, and we're sitting on my left side and right side, depending on how you facing the camera and how you looking at your computer. Monty, how are you doing?
If I was any better, it'd be twins, Jerry. I'm good, man. Always be home to me. Of course, I've been living here longer than I lived there, So I've been here, I guess, about 33 years, I think.
Wow.
I kind of lose track, but I think that's about what it is. Yeah.
Well, that's about as long as I've lived here with in Union here for about 30 years. So I think I'm getting a little bit closer up to that too. But I'm living longer here.
Oh, yeah. Here. Yeah.
And wife's come up told me something about saying ending, but it's not. She's my engineer. She pops out of the room in there a little bit, and
does she like my cup? Does she like my Tigger cup?
Well, I don't think she's seen it. She'll see it in there in the other room, though. I know that. But
my girl, I think it's like 20, maybe 20 years old. My girl's got it for me, and that was my favorite character on Winnie the Pooh. And my girl's got it, and I drink out of it nearly every day. If I drink coffee, I try not to do it every day. I've got enough energy by myself, but if I get a little coffee, I go a little nuts. But occasionally I'll have me a cup.
Yeah, Anna loves her coffee too. She likes her coffee in the first thing in the morning like that. And I tell you, Monty, a couple of questions I got to ask is when you were just a young boy like that, what got you interested in music, or how did you just all of a sudden? And how old was you when you first started singing?
I can't remember. I think it goes back as far as I can remember. Now I would stay in my room and sing. I wouldn't ever go out in public. No, my sister was a wonderful singer, and everybody focused on her, but I was singing in my room, but I never did do anything, and I never would come out and sing. And I remember my dad was singing with her, doing something, and he said, he couldn't find a part. They were doing some song, I forget what it was, and of course Kelly could sing like a grown up then, and she was an old soul when she was a young kid, and I finally, Daddy kept making a mistake or kept missing the place, the note. He didn't know where to go. And I walked in and I just said, it goes like this. And when I did it, his eyes got like big as saucers, and he grabbed me and hugged me like a big old bear. And he squeezed me. He said, boy, I didn't know you could do that. And from that point on, he would encourage me, and he finally coaxed me out, and I was able to start, performing a little bit. The older I get, the more shy I get now. It's like, it's the thing I love most, but it probably terrifies me the most because, you want to be at 100% every time, and it's not fair. It's not fair to lay that on yourself. It's like you got to give yourself a break because, a lot of times you're not going to be at 100%. And, but I think I should be. So it's kind of, especially for home folks, I want to always do a good job. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but the effort's there.
So what was your first guitar that you played? You remember what name it was? 'Cause, see, I'm not
I
musically
do. I
inclined
do.
myself.
I do. It was the first one that I played. My brother got it. Actually, my brother Mike knew how to play chords before me. Daddy taught him, and Mike just put it away. But Mike can actually carry a tune, and not a very good one, but he can. No, he can. He really can. He sings in church, which surprises me. But he had a guitar, and when Mike put it down, I picked it up, and Dad showed me it. This was a little no name guitar, and I played on that thing, and I loved that thing. I wish I still had my first guitar. And then they went to the probably the nicer one that I had. It was a Conqueror. That's what it was, but it looked like a Gibson, but it wasn't. And it was like one of those 3-tier down Gibsons, like like in a car you get a DX, a LX, LX. I had the DX, and but it was a great little old guitar. And then I learned a few chords on Ed Gibson's guitar, which I bought from him several years ago, and I have that, and it's a prized possession of mine. But probably the real guitar, they bought me a Giannini as a little classical guitar, and I kept that thing. I still have it, and then they bought me like an Ovation or something. But then it was up to me to buy my own instruments after that. So
Yeah, I think
it was Dad and Mom.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Musical instruments I can't play. My wife plays the piano real good, and I think the first little guitar I had when I was little, like that, was one of those Mickey Mouse things that you cranked up and made the little noise in it. That's about the only thing I could do.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I didn't, and I played sports and stuff, and I did all of that stuff. But I should have been in my bedroom practicing my guitar, because that was the one thing that I could. I had friends, Randy Crocker and Tommy McCollum, who have always been great encouragers to me. Arnold Childers, wonderful encouragers to me, and they stoked that fire because they allowed me. I was on like a level playing field with those guys. They treated me that way.
Wow.
I wasn't as advanced as they were, but as they were, but they put me on that field with them, and I don't know. I guess singing, I could always just hear parts. I can't remember not being able to do that, and I've got friends here that I've done, a lot of studio work with, and they were the same way. They can't remember not being able to do it, and I was just really blessed and fortunate. And my daddy was just a fantastic singer. He was. I mean, he was just an amazing singer. He could have really. I think he could have really done something, but he had. He went in the Army and had 3 kids, and went to work for a living.
Yeah.
And
life changes
then,
around a little bit like that.
Yes, it does.
Now,
Yes, it does.
You remember your first time that you got up to sing or perform in front of someone, even little growing up? Was you terrified?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I was at, this is not, and we've got a tape of this thing. It's an 8-track tape. I don't know. I know the kids out there will never remember this, but it was an 8-track tape. It's red. It's at my mom and daddy's house now. Well, it's my sister's house now, but it's at that house somewhere now. And I never will forget, Daddy and Kelly went up there to sing. Dad was singing with the Riverside Quartet at the time, Charles Crocker, R.M. Crocker. I think maybe R.M. had passed. It might have been Ray Poteet and Daddy and Ed. And they were up there singing, but they had like a country hour too. So Kelly, Arnold was just a young man. Him and Margie didn't have kids at that time. And Daddy, said, "Hey, will you ride over to Gaffney with us?" Arnold said, "Yeah." And he took his Gretsch and he plugged that thing in, and I could still smell that Gretsch. I loved it when he opened it. You could just some smell about that thing that I just love. And of course, I love Arnold but he came and he was playing for Daddy and Kelly. And then they said, boy, you want to sing? I said, no, I don't want to do it. Daddy said, I'll go out there and sing one. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. And they said, come on, do it. We got a guitar. And they had some old Fender guitar that they fixed the strap some kind of way. And I went out there and sang, what was it? Does my ring hurt your finger when you go out at night? And it was so cool because
You know what?
Dad sang with me. It's a Charlie Pride song because I dearly love Charlie Pride. You know, and I sang that. And
I heard that song that you just sung
yeah,
a couple days ago on the radio. That song.
Does my ring hurt your finger?
Yes,
Yeah,
that same
you
one.
go out at night. Yeah, man. I did, and when I sang that, it's like, and I never will forget the announcer when he said, "From the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, we bring you Marty. Take it away, Marty." Just like that, and it was so freaking funny when I listened back. You know, the last time I listened to it, which was many years ago, but Daddy sang with me, and it was that's something I'll always treasure and always have. And then I kind of graduated on up to doing other stuff. I sang with a friend, Gary Vanford Tadpole. We sang at a I'm trying to think of what it was, some kind of talent show at Lockhart, and of course there's a lot of talent down there, and we would do that, and then it just progressed from there. I was that kid that played and sang, and then I just got addicted to it. Glenn Campbell was such a big influence on me, and when I got to see him in Columbia, South Carolina, I remember we walked up those tall steps, and my knees, I had wrecked on a bicycle at my aunt's house. We had stopped by her house, and I'd wrecked on a bicycle. My knees were just bloody, and we finally got them bandaged up. Can't talk right now. And I remember we were walking up those steps, and we got up there, and we could look down there and see Jerry Reed open, of course, and then Glenn come out and just killed it, and lineman for the county, all that stuff, which we loved, my dad loved, and I was sitting up there, and I remember we were so far up that Mama had borrowed binoculars from Dr. Witz. That's who she worked for at the time.
Okay.
And I remember everybody was passing them around and giving them, and they let me, and I thought it was so sweet. My brother and my sister and my mama and my daddy let me hold them the longest. Because I don't think I ever thanked them for that, but that was awfully sweet of them to let me do that. And of course, I would watch Glenn. I said, man, I'd love to do that one day. I'd love to, be down there around that one day. And lo and behold, many years later, I'm on the stage with one of the biggest country music superstars in the history of country music. And I traveled the world with him, and I would get to, even though now I wasn't in the pilot seat, but I was sitting over there in the co-pilot. I was right there where he was, and it was wonderful to see that. And I would look up every single night because it never was like work to me. Never. I mean, it was like, I thank God for it. It was such a blessing to be able to do it. But I would go out and I would look up in every venue we went to, and it would be 15, 20,000 people out. And of course, Alan, all he had to do was walk out there and, how y'all doing? And people go crazy. And but before it, I would always pray and thank the Lord for having me there with him and the band that I love. And but I'd look up and I'd say, somewhere in this building, there's a little boy looking down, saying, "Boy, I hope I can do that one day." And I was that little boy, and it was. I always tried to be kind to kids, and a lot of times I would give them picks, and I would hand them picks and walk off before they even knew what hit them. You know, I'd slip it over there to them, and I'd hand it to them, and they would never know who'd give it to them. Really, they just, hey, some blonde-headed dude running off down through there, give me a pick. I hope he's not a weirdo. And, but it was like, you know, I never forgot that childlike love for that. It never got old to me, you know, and you know, and after all those years of being on the road with Alan, I've told him, I said, you know, I said, unlike you, I still enjoy it. You know? And I said, and I know he enjoys it, but, you know, he's just been doing it over half his life. But it was, for me, it just never got old. It was like, it was fantastic. You know, I got to see the world through a bus and an airplane. Yeah.
When you was
I went to
when you was a little and growing up and you know, really picking your guitar pretty good like that. Now, when I was growing up, we knew friends of mine. They was in a little band, stuff like that, and they did it for the little girls. They did it for the girlfriends.
Oh yeah, I didn't. I really, that really didn't cross my mind. It did as I got a little older, especially when I saw Stacy. You know, I just wanted to know who she was, and I went straight down and talked to her, and I thought she was so pretty and nice to talk to. But yeah, that was a little perk for a boy in a band. If you were a singer and had a guitar around your neck, you know, you could usually get somebody's attention pretty quick, you know. And I'm thankful that I got her attention, because she certainly got mine, and she still does at this day. We've been married 30-something years, you know. Yeah, I don't even know. Don't tell her I told you. I don't know. I know we were married in 91, so I really don't know. What is it? Is it 33 years, something like that? I think it'll be 33 in September. Yeah, well, September
you was talking
19th.
You was talking about being on the bus like that. I got to interview back in 1985 Loretta Lynn on her bus, and one of the things that
she is a sweetheart.
Yeah, one of the things that she really disliked about being a star as she was, is she says she clearly can't go to flea markets like she could. She had to eat on the bus because of things like that.
That's true. I mean, and you know, and a star like her, a star of the caliber of a Jackson or Urban or Paisley, or, you know, a lot of these up and coming guys that are, you know, just big old country stars. Yeah, they can't go out, you know, and just mingle. They have to be that guy, or the ones that people perceive them as being, you know. So yeah, that would be kind of tough. I think God just let me be close enough to it, because, you know, and it's like, you know, I you know, because so many folks said, well, man, why was you never out front? Why didn't you have a band and do this? And I said, you know, man, I said, I know it sounds like a cliche. I do. I know it sounds like an old, worn out cliche, but it was, God called me to Nashville, and, you know, I'd finally straightened my life up after 28 and a half years. God got my attention and straightened me out. And I've never looked back since. It's been 35 years when I said, Lord, whatever I have left is yours. Take it and use it. I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. And when I did that, man, I'm telling you, my life, it was like, bam, you know, we were married for a year, and God said, hey, I want you to move to Nashville. And you know, I wasn't crazy about going. As a matter of fact, I fussed at God all the way up the road. I did. You know, when I got to the other side of Knoxville, it was like, I think the Lord said, are you through whining? Enough. And it was like, you know, it was simply, hey, I told you, if you come here, which was Nashville, if you listen to me and you trust me, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you more than you've ever been blessed before, but you've got to trust me. And I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to do that. And man, you know, when I did, I come up here, and it wasn't all easy. The places he put me in, the positions that he set me up in, it seemed, I mean, I couldn't draw it up. I mean, it became, you know, I look back at it and I said, man, that was really easy. I didn't, you know, I had worked, I had prepared, and, you know, once I got there, I wasn't there no time, and I signed with a major publishing company. And then I started demoing songs for other people, you know, anywhere from beginning songwriters to Grammy winning songwriters. So it's like, you know, hey, this boy can do all the parts. He can, you know, you pay him one fee and he can do it all, you know, and there's several of my friends that can do the same thing. But I got plenty of work doing. I was making more money than I'd ever made with the state, you know, and I was getting to do it. You know, I would go in and work at 10 and sing, and 12 or 10 and 2. And then I might do a 6 o'clock. Sometimes I'd go in at 10 o'clock at night and work, and, you know, and work on the weekends. And then I thought, you know what, man, I'm going to stop working on the weekends. And all of a sudden work would dry up a little bit. And then I would get other buddies that did what I do. And they'd call and say, hey, are you getting all the work? And I said, no, man, it's drying up over here too. And they said, man, what's going on? Everybody would freak out a little bit, you know, but it would, you know, and I still have a lot of the clients that I worked for back then. I still work for them today. And that's, you know, man, that's after 30 years of doing it, you know, and I often tell people that I really am the richest man that I know, and you know, I've got everything that I've ever wanted, and you know, but you know, when I lived in a house where I could look out and see daylight out the back of that little farmhouse when Stacy and I got married, you know, God had given me such a peace, and I never lost the peace. Never. And it's like, I've tried to tell some of these younger guys, and I said, man, you know, money don't make you happy. I've been around a lot of people with a whole bunch of money. Money doesn't make you happy. All it does is magnify who you are. It doesn't make you generous. It doesn't. You know, if you're tight with what you're making, you're going to be tight with more of it. All it does is magnify. If you're generous with what you have, if you're a giver, if you're generous with what you're making right now, if you get more of it, you're going to give more. And it makes you look like, oh man, he's the most generous person. But it's, you know, money doesn't make you happy. And it's like, you know, I'm just really thankful. You know, it's all, you know, I know I don't want to be preaching on here. I'm not a preacher. I'm not ready to teach a Sunday school class. So, you know, I might say something out of the way. I ain't cussed in 2 weeks. But honestly, it's like, you know, God's done it all, and he's blessed me so much. And I'm just, yeah, I'm in such a good place in my life right now. And, you know, I've got 3, you know.
When you got started, when you first started and taking that big leap into to some of the bigger venues that you're going to, how did your wife feel? Now I know you worked a state job at one time, and say, "Well, honey, I'm going to be a professional musician. I'm going to go."
You know, she was tremendously supportive. She knew, because she knew I didn't want to leave my dad. You know, she knew it would kill me to leave my daddy. And I love my mother, but I was a daddy's boy. You know, and it like to kill me when my daddy died. But it's you know, everybody walks that path at some point. Right. You know, my kids are going to do that if it, you know, continues on. And but yeah, it was, I didn't want to leave my daddy, you know, and I remember I was a 30-year-old man, 31-year-old man, and when I left, man, it's like I fell into his arms, and Yeah, I still think about it and it gets me emotional. I squall like a baby. I did. And he told me, he said, you can always come back here. You can always come home. He said, but he told me something that I never forgot. And it gave me fuel. He said, you go up there, don't you mess around. He said, you go up there and you get after it. And he said, and you don't have to take a back seat to anybody. And he said, you're good enough. You go up there and do it. And that give me confidence, and all artists that I know, they're not the most confident. I mean, you have to, you might have that persona as being, but you're really vulnerable because, some of the songs that you write, some people hate them, and they criticize them. And, that was always tough, but I developed, pretty tough skin. And then I just, I said, what the crap, man? I said, it's just somebody's opinion. I could play you a song and you'd say, oh man, that's beautiful. And then somebody else would say, man, it's trite. I've heard that a million times. I hate that. It's too soft or it's too sweet. It's just somebody's opinion. And you have to believe in yourself.
Well, it's kind of like preaching, because you can preach and someone else says that's a horrible sermon, when someone else says, man, that's sweet, it really touched me. So it really, it's how you portray it and how you feel about it. To me, is the most.
Yeah, I've learned, Jerry, and especially the older that I get, what God's given me, and the way I guess the way I look at stuff is, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks about me. I really don't care, or what they say, because my core group around me, my best friends back home, and I've got about 5 of them, and I've got a core group here. They know what kind of man I am. They know what I'm all about, and it's like, I really don't want to know what somebody else thinks about me, because it shouldn't matter. And it doesn't matter, because my job, as a believer, is to love them regardless.
Correct.
It doesn't matter what they think. I need to love them. Not only should I do that, I'm commanded to do that. So it's like, I'd rather not, because I don't want to hit you in the mouth, but I really don't want to know. And it's like, I'm comfortable with what I do and how I go about doing it. And and that's kind of, it's work, and I give God all the credit for it, because hey, I come from a little bitty podunk town, and I'm proud to be from that little podunk town. But things turn really slowly. The hands of time did back there in that little town. When we were growing up, I didn't realize there were race problems. I mean, we didn't know about that. We just, when the schools were integrated, we saw kids, hey, there's another friend. I didn't think about it, any other way, but, and,
someone to play with and somebody to hang out with.
But when you pull back from it, as an older man, you say, great day, man, that was really going on back then. So, so I've got friends of many colors. So it's like I'm thankful that I was from that town, because I feel like we were kind of insulated from the rest of the world.
Right.
And I wouldn't take anything from being from there,
when you
this is
I was going to ask you, what is the first song that or the first lyrics that you wrote down that you realized that, you know what, I can write songs, I can write music?
Well, I didn't. Well, I was doing something somewhere, and I think my dad, I wrote a few songs for us to sing, and I remember one of the guys we were doing a record out in Greenville, South Carolina, Mark V. And I remember one of the guys saying, who wrote that? And I said, and they said, or Daddy said, Monty did. he said, "You write that?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And then it would be another song, and they would perk up and say, "Who wrote that?" And I said, "Well, I did." And I didn't really know if it, and I said, "Oh yeah, man, take it, use it." Of course they took it, and I signed the publishing away. I didn't know any better, and not that they were trying to do a fast one, but it's like, hey, they were going to pitch it to other people, and they did, and songs started getting cut, and then, once I continued writing gospel songs, a lot of people, over the years, a whole bunch of folks have cut them, and I've had a bunch of number ones in that genre, and it was, yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, and I don't know, me and Robert Arthur started writing together. That's when I moved to Nashville. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but it's a lot of information. Robert and I started writing a lot, and I felt like we turned the corner when there was a publisher up there that said, "Now that's a great song." And, and see, Robert lived in Nashville before I did. He was there a year. So as Robert was, he would come home, he and I hooked up a little bit. And he said, "Hey, buddy, I'm coming home for a few days. You want to write?" And I would take days off of work when I was working for the state. And we would literally, Jerry, we would write just about all night. Now, some of the songs were terrible. I mean, they were, but you got to get those out of your system too, right? So, but some of them were pretty good, and they got better. And Robert would report back to me. Robert would drive back to Nashville, go see his publisher buddy, Ken Bassey, who used to be with Kenny Rogers in the first edition. He ran a publishing company, Ken did. And Robert would come back and said, "Man, he said," I said, how did he like that batch? Is what me and Robert would call it, a batch of songs. And we'd do like 3 or 4, and then he'd run up and play them for him. And he said, "Man, he hated those. He just chopped me to pieces." He said, "But he wants to know who the singer is." He said, "I hate the song, but I love the singer." And Robert, we'd keep going back and forth. He said, "Man, who's singing?" And he said, "Well, that's Monty. That's my buddy back home." And he said, "Man, he ought to be up here." And then, we kept doing it. And finally, when we turned the corner, there was a song that Working Man's Heart, I think it was. And he said, there was a group that put it on hold, and I think they were going to cut it. And he said, "Man," he said, "that boy needs to move up here." And I was reluctant, but God gave me a peace about it and said, "Hey, you need to go." And that's when I moved to Nashville. My wife stayed in South Carolina for 6 months.
Wow.
And it was, yeah. And it was like a dorm room again. It was like me and Robert and 2 of his roommates. And it was, shotgun house, basically.
Now, when y'all wrote these songs and gave them to him, did you give him the music with it or just the words?
Yes, of course. It's not a song unless it has music, and people say, "Well, I write lyrics." Okay, you're writing a poem. If you just have a lyric sheet, if you will, if it doesn't have music to it, then it's a poem. When you put music to it, then it becomes a completed work. So
wow,
yeah,
I didn't know that. I'm glad you cleared that up because
yeah, oh yeah. Now, if you would send me a bunch of lyrics, if you'd send me a lyric of this beautiful lyric, this story, don't do it, Jerry. But if you do, if you do, and I put music to it, then you write. I own half that song if we agree. You see what I'm saying? It's like I'm your songwriting partner, if you will, on that particular work. But you could always tell when somebody was really green when they'd say, "Well, yeah, I wrote the song. He just did the music," and I just start laughing. I'm saying, "Good night, man. You don't have a song without the music. What are you talking about? Don't insult, the musician in the crowd." I said, "You would have nothing without him." So
what?
Yeah,
What gave you some inspirations on some of your songs? So what is
My kids, my wife. Falling water was basically, it was pretty much a love song about her. And I had I walked out the back of the house, and for some reason, and I look at the world differently from your average bear. I always have, and but I looked. It was raining, and I watched the water hit a piece of furniture, and it just followed the curve and nook and cranny of every bit of that furniture till it went all the way down to the foot of that. And I said, man, I'm that falling water. She catches it, and I just follow every line of her body and her soul, and it just kind of morphed into that. And I mentioned that to my friend Bruce Boughton, and we went to the other guy's name escapes me, but he was brilliant, and I had this melody that I really liked, and I started fooling with that. And we were sitting in his house, and he started dropping lyrics out, and then we just started hammering it out, and yeah, and that was just one. I mean, and it's just conversation. If I hear somebody say something, I heard, I was putting a mailbox up for my neighbor one time, and he was talking about something, and he said, that ain't the mountain. He said, that's not a mountain I'm going to die on. And when he said that, I ignored everything else that he said. I could not. He was talking, but I said, I've got to get in and write that down. And it was a really cool song. I mean, I've wrote some really bad ones, but I've been a part of a little part of some really good tunes, and that was one of them. And me and Robert,
Does your wife critique him?
It's terrible to give them to her. She's going to say, "Oh, that's beautiful." She don't know. Don't you tell her I said it. No, sometimes she does. It's now. I'll tell you, my best critic is my youngest daughter, Gigi Grayson, and now G will be, man, she'll hit you over the head with it. I mean, if it's not, she said that doesn't make sense. She'll say that's not clear. That's she said, "Oh, I love that. That makes sense." And I said, "See what you think about this?" And she'll call me sometimes if she's listened to something that I've done. She said, "Daddy, that is really good." She said, "That's a different way of looking at something." She said, "But I really like that, And even when we did the donkey song, she was great about that, But she's honest, and that's what I like. I don't want somebody just to beat me up for the sake of beating me up over a song, but I don't want anybody blowing smoke up my britches leg,
right?
Because just to try to prop me up or something. I said, I don't need that. I need some honesty here, and I kind of know when I feel like I've hooked it or we've hooked it, and a lot of the gospel songs. I mean, it's and I've never really actively pitched songs. I've got a few groups that reach out to me to do some of that, and it's been really good.
Now,
I actually have something. I don't know if you've heard that "Stars in Lahaina" song. That was interesting. A friend of mine from Colorado, he sent me something. He always sends something, and wonderful people. And but he sent me this lyric, and I was actually mixing a record for a group that I was producing at the time, and I was sitting there and I looked at the lyric and I said, "Well, that's the best thing you've ever sent." He said, "Are you going to write?" I said, "Yeah, this is worth writing. This is the best thing you've sent me." And so I kind of hopped in there, and that song was put out, I guess 2-3 months ago, maybe, and it's done pretty well from what I understand, and I just, it's just that the music part comes pretty quickly for me. I can, just kind of hammer through it pretty quickly. And honestly, Jerry, I don't know if it's, great or not. You don't know. I've got a lot of good songs, but it's like, I don't know if it's great, and, so that's the dilemma. It's like, you think a lot of songwriters, I know if they're like me, it's like, I think I wrote a good one. It sure does. I don't see any holes in it. It makes sense. And the subject matter is a little bit different. The angle is different from how, a lot of songs look at this subject. And, but, there again, you don't know. It's just opinions, things.
Do you ever run across when you're putting these songs together like it? Because you listen to lots and lots of music. Does sometimes some other music run together when you're putting a song together? You have to kind of.
Oh yeah, I cheat off myself. I borrow from myself all the time. Robert Arthur, he's so funny. I call him Klingon. I love him dearly. And but the Kling will say, I said, hey, didn't I do that chord progression in another song? He said, oh, we can borrow from ourselves. That's not copyright infringement. We can do that, and we can. So it's like, yeah, sometimes it does. I mean, there's only so many notes, and I don't fiddle with it much. I say, well, I've got to put a minor chord here. I never do that. I just go what feels right. And
now, when you're writing,
and I think,
are you humming like some tunes there when you're kind of writing, or if you're writing it,
I do. Yeah. I do. Sometimes it's that way, and sometimes it's like, I'll think about something, and the donkey song, for example, and that song's been played a good bit. I think the Wisnett family cut that song, and I told them it would be a good song for them because it's just from a different perspective, but it actually started out as a joke. I walked right here where I'm sitting, and I picked my guitar up, and I said, it's around Christmas time, and I said, I wonder, and I think they were looking for Christmas songs, and I said, I wonder if the animals could actually talk, when Christ was born, not saying they didn't, maybe they did, I don't know. But if the donkey could speak, what would he say? And I said, I'm going to try to close it off and keep him in the bag as long as I can for somebody, and then I was walking through the pasture after finishing a meal, content with kicking up the dirt and gazing through the field. And it was like, okay, that can be a man. That can be a man walking through the pasture. Then a man and woman approach me with kindness in their eyes. And it's like, and so it was with that. I kept it in the bag as long as I could, and me and Robert, and it was, it started out as a joke, and I said, hey, and I called Robert, and I said, hey, I think this is pretty good, and it turned out to be one of the coolest songs I've ever written.
Well, yeah. In the Old Testament, like that, there was a donkey that actually spoke.
There you go.
So
there you go. Well, this is something, and you'll love this. When I sent it to the Wisnett bunch out there in North Carolina, and I remember Susan called. She said, "Oh, we love that song, blah blah blah." And then it was like, "But we're just trying to figure out, who's going to be the donkey." I said, "There's no doubt who it is in my house." I said, "I'm it. I'm that donkey, buddy. No doubt." But yeah, it's a really cool song. And
you probably thought about that when when you shaved one of your eyebrows off.
Oh man, did you see that?
That
Did you
was,
see that?
yes, that was
You
so
know, a man's
funny.
got to keep them things groomed up. And man, I'm gonna tell you, when I did that, I told somebody, I said, um, I said my eyebrows are getting bushy, and I had one of those trimmers. I remember I've had it for years, and I thought it was set on the right. It looked like it was set on the right setting, and right when I hung it in there, I could stuff fell down in my eye, and I said, "Oh crap!" And Stacy was in there watching TV in the media room or bonus room, whatever you want to call it. But she was in there watching a movie or something, and I stood there and I looked at it, and it was slick, man. It looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It looked like the Terminator. And I said, "What am I going to do?" And all of a sudden, man, it's like I said, "I can't leave the other one. I got to get it too." And I did. I shaved the other one off, and man, I left, and it was probably 9 o'clock. And I never go to the gym at 9 o'clock. And I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go work out." And I'm taking off out the door. And she said, "At 9 o'clock?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be back, man. I just need to go get me a quick workout in." I was just hoping she would go on to bed so she wouldn't see it. And then, of course, when she did, she fell out laughing. She couldn't believe. She said, "Good night, only you, boy." I said, "Yep, that's right."
Well, didn't one of your buddies kind of help you out there on those eyebrows? Didn't he send you some to wear?
Yes, he did. Brian Statzler, that turd. He sent it to me in my girls. Yeah, yeah. Kinsey said, I said, "What is this? Is it like a tattoo?" I didn't know. And Kinsey said, "I don't know." She said, "Daddy, please put it on." And I said, "I'm not going to do it." And she said, "Daddy, please." And man, when she did that, and then I stuck it on, it was like, and then she was like, she lost it. She couldn't. I mean, my kids wear me out. I mean, I'm telling you, they poke fun of me all the time, scare me. They do all kinds of stuff to me, but it's I love that though. It's good to be loved by your family, and I know that I am.
And the good laughter helps the soul too, doesn't it?
Sometimes, Jerry, sometimes it does. Sometimes it don't. It's like it makes me jump out of my shoes,
They don't.
but
They scare you.
yeah, it does.
Do they scare you a lot?
Yes, man. Oh, yeah, they will. I'll walk out from the bathroom and Kenji will be sitting there and say, "Boo," like that and make me jump, and then she just die back. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, she tells
Yeah.
me I scare her a lot. I just walk quietly. I'm just a very quiet person when I'm walking into a room and stuff. It just always has been. And she'd be standing there, I just walk
Yeah.
right up on her. She'd turn around and scream, "Stop that."
Yeah. Yes. Stop doing that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Good night. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, what it felt like, Monty, when you first heard your song play on the radio or play when you first time you heard it?
It, it was pretty cool. It was, and I still hear them. I've got friends, that'll send me something. They'll say, "Listen, what was on the radio today?" And it is, but I mean, it's all been wonderful, but it's like I don't get too caught up in it. I don't, because I'm constantly trying to move forward and do something else, and I try not to get caught up in that. And you have to take it with a grain of salt, and I don't get too certainly don't get uppity on it. And even when, I remember we had a video and we were going to church. It was on a Sunday, and one of my kids said, "Daddy, you're on TV." And I walked in there and I peeked my head around the corner. I said, "Yep, I sure am. Let's go." And we walked right out the door. I didn't even look at it. I went right on out the door. And it was so funny. It was the same kind of thing that happened when People Magazine called me. It was like one of I've got the article in one of these storage cabinets somewhere, but it said one of 5 new country artists to watch. And see, and I was we had put a song out. I went and did the way that happened. I did like 11 or 12 songs in one day. I was just working for these guys, demoing their songs, doing like this record, and I was the stunt singer basically. And it was going to be no name. Nobody would know who it was. It was just going to be put out as a group. And but one of the songs was "A Soldier Coming Home." All I want for Christmas is a soldier coming home. And you know, once they did that, they mixed. I mean, and it was basic, you know, ham and egg kind of stuff. But I sung it, I guess, as well as I could do. And once they put the song out, the song charted on Billboard, you know, and it was like, you've got to be kidding. And one of the guys from West Virginia sent it to me and said, "Hey, man, this song charted," you know, and this was before all the TikTok, social media, all that crazy stuff. And it was like, okay, well, I guess that's good, you know, and I still didn't think anything about it. And that's when, you know, a couple of lawyers got together and formed a label, and they signed me to the label. And then that's when I went and did my country record, you know, and added that song to it. But yeah, it was like that little song there was like, I mean, you know, and I was out touring with Alan then, you know, and some of the opening acts, you know, probably didn't have a song as high as that one was. And it wasn't, you know, it was, you know, on the charts for, I think, for a few months. And it was kind of funny, you know, when I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding." Well, People magazine called me. I hung up on them. I thought it was a joke. And I did. I hung up on them. And they said, "Hey, Monty, this is People magazine." I said, "Yeah, right." And I hung up. And they called back and they said, "No, please, this is legit," you know. And I said, "Okay, if you're trying to punk me, I'm going to track you down and gut you like a fish." And but no, and she was super nice. And I had done that record, and she said, "Hey, we would like to put you in this magazine." And I said, "Okay." And I'm still, you know, really hesitant. And sure enough, you know, when they said, "We just would like a song that we can download for free," and the girl said, she said, "I know what I want it to be," and she said, "It's Falling Water." And I said, "Oh, that's a cool one. Okay, that's was written for my wife from my perspective, anyway." And they did that, you know, and it was. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. We went to the getting back, you know, I'll circle back around from seeing my video on TV and telling my girls, "Hey, let's go on to church." But we went up to the bookstore there in Mount Juliet, and I told Stacy, I said, "You go in there and get it. I don't want to look like a dweeb going in there and say, 'Hey, I want to see if I'm in this magazine.'" Stacy walks in, she buys it. Our two kids were in, I think we're in a minivan. We pulled up in there. No, we're in her little SUV. And I was sitting there in the driver's seat, and she comes out and she starts flipping through it. And I said, "Well, did I make it in there?" She said, "Yeah, there you are," and held it up. And it was so surreal to see that. It's the weirdest thing. And I had people calling me from all across the country that I had met with the Jackson tour that "Hey, man, you're in this magazine." And then others would be like, and they did that video, "The Soldier Coming Home." They had it in theaters all across the country, and it like did really well. It like charted really high in like the theaters, which it probably doesn't mean translate into record sales or anything like that. At least I didn't see anything about that. But I mean, I didn't see anything from that. The lawyers handled that in West Virginia, but it did pretty good. And it was like, I would have people, "Hey, man, are you in a uniform? I swear, I know I heard that singing." I said, "I know that voice." And I said, "What was it?" And they said, "Soldier Coming." I said, "Yeah, that's me. That was me." I said, I did it. And it was actually a beautiful video and fun, you know.
Well, years ago, we grew up. They didn't have the videos right then. MTV. I remember when it came in and the VHS and all that right there. But before that, if it was on the radio, it was something else. I mean, you was a celebrity. I mean, everybody
Yeah,
carried around transistor radios and everything else.
yeah, it does, especially, the gospel stuff, that's a much smaller piece of pie. But when you hear it, if you hear your country song on it, from that country record that we did, and when you hear something, it is pretty cool to hear it, but it's like, hey, that's part of the process. I mean, it's, um, I was okay with it. I never freaked out, or I never got the big hit on it. I'm the same Monty that slid down Mill Hill in Lockhart. I'm the same guy. I just would tell my friends, that I was I just worked a different job. I said, I work like you do. I can't call it work. Forgive me if I call it work, because some of those boys would beat me up over that. But I just said, I make a living in a different way that you do. I said, we're all in the same boat working, and God really just, I don't know, man. It's like to be in God's favor, and I know that I am, and I look back and I see the stones He let me skip over, and I stumbled quite a few times, but He was always there to pick me up, and I skipped right on through, and just to something better, something bigger, something better for my family, and yeah. And now it's just me and Stacy in this old big house. And I told her I hate it because it's so quiet now. My girls aren't here, but I've got 3 grandchildren, and they're just beautiful.
Yeah, they liven things up. I know. Our
Oh
grandchildren
man,
do too.
I try to get them to move in with me. I try to get them. I said, man, I tell you, if I had another wing out here, I would put them out here in a second. And but yeah, I do. We love it on the weekends and I'm thankful that my girls and their husbands want to come over here and spend time with us.
Yeah.
And usually every Friday and Saturday and Sunday we're going to see them. They come and they hang with us, and we're always grilling out and stuff. And I've got to build a fancy pantsy grill outfit out there in the back. It's like do something like that out by the pool. And that was another thing. We put a pool in because we wanted to know where our kids were.
All right.
And don't mind if they brought friends, that's fine. But I wanted to know where my girls were. And Stacy and I were both on board, with that. And I was thinking, I said, I learned to swim in the Broad River. I couldn't imagine my kids going down there swim. I'm telling you, man, I wouldn't let my children get in that thing. But it was good to me. That's where I learned to swim. But it's like, I wouldn't want my daughters doing it. And that's why we put a pool in. And then it was, oh, Daddy, if you put a pool in, we'll clean it. We'll keep it swept. They never did. They never did for like 15 years. They never did. Now Stacy's just now taking it over where she puts all the chemicals in, because she said, hey, if you get me one of those dolphins, one of those cleaners,
Well,
I'll take it over.
We got just a couple minutes here. For those couple minutes, if someone's just starting out playing, writing music, just starting out, what's some advice that you would give them?
You know what? Practice, work, work and believe in yourself, and there's so many avenues now that you can get music out, shucks. I mean, that guy from West Virginia, that he did something and man, it just blew up, and a lot of folks do that. And there's some amazing singers on TikTok and stuff that just floor me when I see them. I say, gosh, it's incredible. But it's, a lot of stuff like that. You don't have to be here now like you used to be. I mean, it was always one of those things. Everybody can get a ticket, but you need to be present to win kind of thing. So it's not like that now. So, yeah.
Well, Monty, I really appreciate you being on my show here. I've enjoyed it.
Do you really?
I sure
Do
did.
you really? Will you have me back?
I sure will. Definitely, definitely. I know you don't like watching yourself, so you can have your wife and he'll critique you then.
Oh yeah, yeah. She'll critique me on other things, house cleaning and all that stuff. But yeah,
Well, Monty,
she's a good gal.
you have a blessed week and blessed day, and like I said, really enjoy talking with you. And
Oh man, I enjoyed talking to you, Jerry, and hug Edna Sue for me.
I'll definitely do it. I'm going to switch over to me and put a little music in the background and sign off. You have a blessed day.
Good to see you.
Nice
You too, man.
Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and you've been listening to Primetime with Jerry McKee, and we've had Monty Allen here with some of his wisdom and insights and some funny stories here. And be sure to like, and we'll see you next week. I'll be at the fire department. They want to talk a little bit about some of the things that's got going on, bond issue and stuff. So I'll be there live on site. So be glad you tune in, and we've got some other things coming up. Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and you just have a great, great day, and we will talk to you